Hello, welcome back to Too Many Books. My name is Sean, and today I'd like to talk to you about The Girl on the Porch, a novella from Richard Chizmar. Now, elephant in the room, Richard Chizmar has been having a rough year so far. He got into some hot water over the handling of a situation at Cemetery Dance. He got his company banned from presenting or listening to new authors at StokerCon. I'm not really going to talk about all of that. I've talked to it about in other videos, and I do try to separate the art from the artist. So I didn't go in with a negative mindset based on, his other experiences. But at the same time, I do want to say that I didn't like this novella, so this is not me trying to kick him when he's down. I did go in with an open mindset. This particular edition is from Thunderstorm Books. There's actually 3 editions out there. I'll talk more about that after we're done discussing the novel or novella. But let's dive in. The Girl on the Porch is, I don't even know if you can call it a murder mystery. It's a what if. What if the small little suburban neighborhood, you discover in the middle of the night that there was a half-naked woman with a chain around her leg trying to get your attention, ringing the doorbell, banging on the door, trying to seek help on your doorstep. And you didn't hear her in the night. You only found out after the fact that she was there. And now this woman has gone missing. You don't know who this mystery woman is. You don't know where she went. And it opens up a whole police investigation where the suspects are you and your neighbors. You don't know who to trust. You don't know who to turn to. You don't know who this woman is. It's a very interesting concept. Apparently it's based off with some inspiration to real-life events. I don't really know the details of that. Take that with a grain of salt. But unfortunately, the interesting concept doesn't quite flesh out from there. I mean, Chapter 1 is an interesting enough chapter. It deals with the Tucker family waking up to discover that they had this nighttime visitor on their lawn. And they weren't able to help her. And suddenly they have this door cam footage or security camera footage of this woman who needs help, and they bring in the cops. But it's presented in just the clunkiest way. Chizmar presents exposition in this with a very tell-don't-show attitude. For example, this little chestnut. "Hear me out," she said, giving Kenny her full attention. "You know the little security camera you installed last year when packages started disappearing from porches around the neighborhood?" Kenny nodded. "Right around Thanksgiving." That's not how people talk. It's just, I know the reader needs information, but you're doing it with the precision of a sledgehammer. Or, you might ask yourself, how do you learn more about the Tucker's backstory? You know how you don't do it? You don't do it by talking to the cops in just the absolute roughest interview ever. Here they are talking to the cops. "So, you said you moved here 4 years ago from Lancaster County?" "That's right," Kenny said. "And you commuted to your teaching job at Hartford Day School before that?" "No, I was working at a public school back then. Once I interviewed at Hartford Day and signed a contract to teach and coach there. That's when what are we doing here?" The characters talk like they're children describing their day. You know what I mean? You ever talk to a small child and you're like, "How was your day, Billy?" And Billy says, "My day was great. I had 3 eggs and 4 strips of bacon, and then we went to the zoo." That's not how people talk. You're trying to do this conversationally, but you're failing at it. And then, thankfully, the exposition is really dumped in that first chapter, so it's not as clunky going forward, but it doesn't improve with the plot because you don't really care about the Tucker family. You don't really care about their little investigation into this strange woman who was on their porch. They kind of go about their own way trying to figure things out, starting a neighborhood watch. That goes nowhere. It's okay if things are going nowhere and there's a twist at the end, but there's not really a twist at the end. The information, the whodunit, is just kind of dumped on you unceremoniously. The cops show up and they say, Colonel Mustard did in this room with the wrench. They just present the information. Now, Sherlock Holmes did that in the old Arthur Conan Doyle stories, but you were at least there with Sherlock looking at the red herrings and looking at the clues along the way, and then he would put the pieces in place. Here, you're with the Tuckers as they're looking for clues in the bushes over here, and then you just have the solution dumped on you. It's like watching an episode of Law and Order, except you were asleep for 9/10 of it, and you woke up at the very end just to hear the cop say, "Oh, he did it. Let's arrest him." So it's just an unsatisfactory ending. It's almost like a nothing burger. You have that interesting concept to start things off, even if it's presented in a brutal way, and then you have the resolution where they just tell you what happened, and everything in between is a whole lot of wasted time, 100 pages that you're not going to get back. And it's disappointing. I mean, it's not surprising that Chizmar would then go on to write Becoming the Boogeyman, or Chasing the Boogeyman, because there are definitely parallels between the two stories. They both feature an everyman who finds himself dragged into a story about missing girls and potential murders. Both stories deal with them looking in the bushes in the complete wrong direction, and then in both stories the cops show up in the final act and just describe everything. Speaking of which, talk about incompetent cops. Now, I, thankfully, have never been involved in any sort of murder investigations, so I've never had to talk to cops about such situations. But I highly doubt the cops are going to stop by every few days to you, the person who has the security footage, who is still technically on the list of suspects, and just dump so much information on them. But that's exactly what they do in The Girl on the Porch. Every few days, the detective shows back up and says, "Oh yeah, we were looking at this boathouse, and then we found this strand of hair, and we found the murder weapon, and we found that." Like, you shouldn't be giving this information to the public. Why don't you just do a Facebook post and tell them what you found? Like, it's just, what are you doing? That's not how things go. But that's how things go in this novella, because you, the reader, need to know it, and Chizmar needs to tell you instead of showing it. And since what you are being shown is the Tuckers going way off field with their own investigation, you need to be told the actual clues and the actual progress that the police have made along the way. So, I mean, like I said, Rich, I didn't want to kick you while you're down. I mean, if I had enjoyed it, I would have given it a good review. But this kind of sucked. And I mean, it's a fancy edition. Don't get me wrong. So let's talk about those. This novella is available in 3 editions. The edition that you've seen here is the Diamond line, the Diamond editions from Thunderstorm Books, where Thunderstorm has partnered with Cemetery Dance to do hardcover editions of paperback originals. So what you might be thinking is, oh, this is a paperback original for Cemetery Dance? Kind of. The expanded edition here is the paperback original. It was originally published as a hardcover, a small hardcover, from Subterranean Press however many years ago. Now, I used to own that one. I don't anymore, and I don't think I have the willpower or desire to acquire it again and see what the differences are. But I really can't imagine the shorter version being any better. I mean, this is supposed to be the revised and expanded edition, but it's still a whole lot of nothing. So what the hell happens in the shorter version? If you really wanted to check this out for yourself, if you are a diehard Chizmar fanatic, honestly, it might be in your best interest to go for the shorter version, just so you're not wasting as much time to read this. But, I mean, ultimately, this is a nice edition, so if you did need to have a copy, if you absolutely loved this novella, and you disagreed with everything that I just said for the past 9 minutes, that's totally fine. Then this might be the edition to own. It's limited to 196 copies. You know, it doesn't have the fancy end papers. It's almost kind of tipped in like a frontispiece. But, I mean, it's still a very nice publication, which, you know, I gotta give Paul from Thunderstorm credit for that. But more widely available would be the paperback edition from Cemetery Dance, or even that original Subterranean Press hardcover. I don't think either of those call for too much money on the secondary market. But yeah, that's The Girl on the Porch of Richard Chizmar. It's honestly probably not worth your time. I mean, if you're a huge fan of becoming the boogeyman or chasing the boogeyman, you're thinking, man, if only I could read a shorter version that had a lot less in it, then this is for you. But really, it's only a novella for collectors out there and completionists, unfortunately. So, anyways, thank you very much for watching. Oh, you know what? You know what's pretty interesting is I think, and I should have confirmed this beforehand, but I'm pretty sure the artwork for all 3 editions was done by Francois Vaillancourt. I mean, this is definitely Francois, and I believe Francois definitely did the Subterranean Press edition. I can't recall, I can't envision the Cemetery Dance paperback edition, but I feel like that was Francois as well, which is pretty cool because it would be, 3 different pieces, 3 different editions, all featuring the same artist, but with different covers. So anyways, thank you very much for watching. Please consider subscribing to the channel here. I do at least 1 book review a week, plenty of unboxing videos in between here and there. Check out Thunderstorm Books, and we'll see you around next time.